Addition strategies. There's a few different ways of coming up with approaching addition problems. And we're going to go through 4 different ways today very quickly, and just you should do whichever one makes the most sense for you. So if we have this problem here, 6,831 plus 1,897. That problem there, can't do it in my head very easily, so I'm going to use pen and paper in this case here. And the example that we're going to start with is this one, Rachel's solution. And what Rachel did was she broke down the problem into 6,831 plus 1,897, but she broke down that 1,897 into the following components: 1,897. And when she did that, she made it into 4 different addition problems that are simpler. And so if you look again at the pattern here, what we have is that there's that 1,000, there's the 800, there's the 90, and finally there is the 7. And so when she does that, she makes it so that it's a simpler addition problem in her mind, and let's go through those rules to make sure it's really clear. Very, very important to understand. You've got to line up your addition problems so that the columns are correct. You can't add up a number like 420 plus 24 and line it up like that. That would lead you to an incorrect answer, and that would be problematic because the 2 and the 4, those are 2 10s and 4 1s, and they need to be lined up in the proper way. Otherwise, you will have frequent errors. So if we look here, this problem here, she adds 6,831, she adds 1,000 to it. So 1 plus 0 in the ones column is 1. 3 plus 0 in the tens column is 3. 8 plus 0 in the hundreds column is 8. And 6 plus 1 in the thousands column is going to be 7. So now we move on to the next step here. And we end up with 1 plus 0 equals 1 in the ones column again. 3 plus 0 equals 3 in the tens column. And then we have 8 plus 8, which is equal to 16. And that's going to be in the hundreds column. And you can't really have 16 in the hundreds column. You can have a 6 in the hundreds column, but you can't jam 2 numbers in there. So what happens is, we take this number here, the 1, and we add that to the thousands column, the next column over. And so we end up with this answer down here, which is going to be again, 8,631. If you notice, in the 7 in the previous part of the problem ended up needing to be changed to an 8 because of that whole number, 16, being larger than 10. So let's go over this again. What we have here is now we have the next step is going to be 8,631 plus 90. Again, 1 plus 0 equals 1 in the ones column. 3 plus 9 equals 12 in the tens column. And exactly the same sort of thing is going to happen here because we need to do something with that 1. We can keep the 2 down there. That's what that 2 is right there. We can keep that 2 there. That's fine, but we can't jam a 1 and a 2 in that single space. You can only have 1 digit there. So that's the reason why we take that 1 and we carry it, or we move it over to adding, instead, we add it to the hundreds column. And so now we end up with with it being 8,721. And the last part of the problem is just going to be, we add together the 7 to that previous part of the problem, And when we do that, we end up with just 1 plus 7 equals 8 in the ones column. And so when you add up all those together, what you're going to end up with is you're going to end up with this. And one of the things you should always do is you should always check your answers by doing an estimate. And one of the easiest ways of doing an estimate is by going ahead and approximating what the answer is going to be. So for here, come up with a number that's close to 1,000, that's in the thousands column, and what you'll probably do is what's the number that's 1,000 in the thousands column, and just in the thousands columns that's closest to, and it's going to be 7,000. And then for this same thing, the number that's closest to there, just in the thousands column, is going to be 2,000. When we add this together, we end up with 9,000. And that's pretty close to that there. So we know we're on the right track. We know that we didn't mistakenly put something in the wrong column, which is key in terms of lining things up. So now we're going to go over a couple of other examples here. This is Charles's solution. What he decided to do was he changed the problem, so he took these two numbers here, and he instead said, well, 6,831 is just 6,000 plus 800 plus 30 plus 1. And he did the same thing here with the 1,897. And then he just added them all together. And when he adds them all together, he takes them one step at a time. And he takes, first of all, he takes the thousands. When he adds the thousands together, he takes the 6,000 plus the 1,000, those ones that we have right here. And when he adds them together, he ends up with 7,000. Then he takes the 800 and the 800, and he adds them together, and he ends up with 1,600. Then he adds the 30 and the 90, and that's 120. Then the 1 plus the 7 equals 8. And he keeps these very clearly in line. And then when he adds them all up together, what he ends up with, he goes ahead and he ends up with 8,728, just like he should. And now over here for Zachary's solution, similar sort of way of doing it. In this case here, he's just dealing with, it's almost the same way as this is. It's just written in a way that instead he's writing it out without writing out the problem, directly. There just are a few more steps in Charles's solution versus Zachary's solution. But if you look here, we got the 7,000, the 7,000. So he's doing the 6 plus the 1, and he's making sure to keep track of these in the thousands column. Then he has the 1,600, because that's the 800 plus the 800. Then he has the 120 plus, or then he has the 30 plus the 90 and the 120, and that's 120. Then the 1 plus the 7 equals 8. And so again, similar sort of setup, it's just that he's not doing the addition the way that Charles is. He's just writing it out directly underneath instead. And finally, we have Janet's solution. And similar sort of way here, what she's doing is, the key difference is she's starting instead from the ones column here, instead of it starting from the thousands column. That is a key difference. So in this case here, she goes ahead and she adds 1 plus 7, that equals 8. Then we add 3 plus 9, that's going to be equal to 12. And that 12, that 2 there is again part of that 12, but this 1 up here, that indicates that she owes 1 more in that column, because that would instead be 120. So she owes 100. That's why she wrote it over the hundreds column. And then you got to move on to the next one, but you've got to keep track and make sure that you're dealing with that 1. So you add 1, and I'm in this column here, 1 plus 8 plus 8, that's going to be 17. And in this case here, she keeps the 7, but she's got to add that 1, got to do something with that 1, so she puts it over to the thousands column. And when she does that, now she can write down that 7, and instead, the final part of the problem is going to be 1 plus 6 plus 1, and that's going to be 8. And then you're done after you check your estimate and make sure you're right.